This is the song written for the train chase. This is the chase, Rocky and Ken. He tried to kill me with a forklift. Olay! Joe Mannix. Ba-da-da-da.
Welcome, host, Time Lords, and tourists, to the 84th episode of an Unearthly podcast featuring Voyage of the Damned, written by Russell T. Davies and streaming live on the 10th of December, 2014. I'm the Man in Black. I'm a podcaster. I'm from the city Danbury in the state of Connecticut. I'm 26 years old, and I'm the man who's going to introduce your co-hosts to all 6 billion people on the planet below. You got a problem with that?
6 billion? You mean 6, if we're lucky.
With me are Mad Matt Winchell.
Ouch with those numbers. Hi. I'm drinking huckleberry soda.
Randy Ronson McCulloch.
Always a pleasure.
Aaron Romeo Moon Burke.
Hello.
And Tim the Enchanter Sheridan.
Merry Christmas!
Sort of.
A little early for that one.
Yeah, we still got
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2
2
weeks,
episodes before we hit the Christmas special, and we'll all be doing Merry Christmas at that point.
It's never too early for Christmas.
Yeah, Christmas should be celebrated all year round.
No.
I always preferred Christmas in July. Maybe because I was home all month.
Hearts.
I always preferred Christmas at Ground Zero.
Instead of Valentine's Day, can we have another Halloween?
I'm down with that.
Woo! You're down with that? My sister's down with that? I think we can find some other people.
Speaking of Christmas, our news coverage this week starts off with a photo gallery from this year's Christmas special, Last Christmas. I know it has been mentioned as being the first complete or the first look at the cast of the special.
Is that Capaldi holding a Satsuma?
I've heard of people talking about tangerines, so I don't know.
Essentially, a Satsuma is a tangerine. It's similar to a Tangelo.
Yeah, it's a little small to be an orange.
There's also a photo of him sniffing it.
Yes. And apparently one of Nick Frost's Santa throwing one up and down. But Satsumas are very traditional holiday fare in the UK.
That makes sense then. Okay.
It's
because I remember seeing I remember seeing some comments on Facebook. What's up with Capaldi and the tangerines?
Yeah, it's probably a Satsuma. Generally, they're considered part of a stocking stuffer.
Kind of like the chocolate oranges here in the States.
He's holding it like it's some rare artifact, like it's a Dragon Ball or something.
Maybe he thinks it is.
Maybe it's the Dragon Satsuma.
Oh, I see. Assassin's Creed Doctor Who fans
all 7
photoshopping a piece of Eden onto that.
Collect all 7 of Satsumas and summon Santa Claus.
That would be the worst Dragon Ball ripoff ever.
Oh, I don't know. Santa Claus could hand you a whole bunch of really cool shit.
I'm picturing
yes,
Santa
I know.
Claus.
But the whole
Santa
thing about
Claus
the Dragon
with
Balls,
voice.
the whole thing about the Dragon Balls is the fact that they're so awesome that even the bad people want them. What bad person wants to summon Santa Claus? Unless for some reason their doomsday device is powered by coal.
Yes.
Yes.
We want all the coal. No, they're trying to
Hmm.
create a diamond factory, and to do that, they want all of the coal in the world.
Oh, okay. I think we've other than that, there's not much that we can really make out of these pictures.
There's a
There's
bunch of
apparently
people in headsets wearing similar outfits.
there's somebody standing in front of what looks to be a fairly cool Star Trek-y display. And then a lot of pictures of the Doctor, Clara, and Santa and his elves. We really can't tell anything more at this point. So your
Just
guess
images.
is as good as mine.
Yay, images.
I'm wondering if the people in headsets between that and the display above are like at NASA or something.
Yeah, there are some
Maybe?
kind of North Pole research base, I would suspect, considering we know this is going to be happening at the North Pole.
Which
They're going to be.
reminds me of
Are they
10th
going?
Planet.
Are they going to be attacked by Cybermen?
Are Cybermen
Is-
supposed to be in this?
No.
No.
this Waters of
Apparently,
Mars?
it's those green pod things that might be Ice Warriors and might not be. Remember the
Yeah, Ice Warriors are just as apt to be up there too.
remember the trailer? There were these weird things that we said looked vaguely like Ice Warriors. That one seemed to be opening its mouth.
I thought the only reason Ice Warriors were mentioned was because I was riffing on Santa Claus Conquers the Martians.
Nope.
Yeah, I don't remember green
They
pod
looked
thing.
green and scaly. It was either Ice Warriors, Silurians.
Yeah, there was something alienish. I remember that.
Yeah.
I can't recall it.
Anyway, we're
Trailers
going to move
stick
on
to me
from
like-
this.
Trailers stick to me like water.
The ABC in Australia has confirmed their Christmas running for Doctor Who. Will be on Friday, the 26th of December at 7:30 p.m. I'll remind you that this is because of how far ahead of the UK Australia is. They're almost on the international date line.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
they are going to get it a little bit delayed so that that would be about, I would say it would be close to 5, 6 in the morning in the UK. So about a 12-hour delay. Transmission
just
times.
time, but okay.
The transmission times have now been confirmed for the UK, which is Christmas Day at 6:15 p.m. USA and Canada, where they will be getting it at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Germany on Christmas Day at 9:30 p.m. If there are any further broadcasts that will be announced, we will announce them at a later date.
Let's see, and that was our last bit of yes, that was our last bit of Christmas special news. Moving on to the Classic Who news, we've got some rather interesting, some disparate but interesting pieces of Classic Who news to talk about this week. The second Peter Cushing movie, Daleks Invasion Earth 2150 AD, has a limited edition steelbook release coming in, I believe it was May 15th of 2015. I don't remember if I checked for a region listing on this, but it is a Blu-ray release. There will be a limited edition of 2,000 releases, and it is available for pre-order now. With it being limited edition, actually, I would not be surprised if it's Region 2 then.
Blu-ray too, yeah.
Yeah.
Is Blu-ray region coded? It might be
That's
region
a good
all.
question.
Yeah, actually, I think Blu-ray has actually been slowly leaning towards no regions.
Yeah, I thought Blu-ray was region all, so it might not make a difference.
Free UK delivery on all orders.
Because it's probably coming from the UK first to begin with.
Which means, of course, if you're going to try to purchase it here, you're going to have to tack on a crapload higher level of shipping.
Depends on how whether or not they actually do intend to bring it here, first of all. And I will say, for the fact that it's higher quality than my current DVD and it might have more extras and comes in a shiny, nicely painted box, I'd almost be willing to shell out a few bucks for that.
It depends, really. I mean,
especially since
I'm a little leery when it comes to releasing something on a lot older format, on a higher format, because they already cleaned it up when they digitally remastered it to put it on DVD. unless the copies you have are essentially the cheapo VHS to DVD rips.
Not that I'm aware of. They were pretty decent quality.
So they
Okay,
were probably
I just
remastered.
found our answer on the region locks. I am showing
Mhm.
that 2/3 of all Blu-ray movies are region free.
Yep.
The ones that are region locked, rather than being 4 regions like DVDs, are in 3 regions. Looks like there's A, which includes America, Japan, Southeast Asia, Korea. Region B, which includes essentially, well, Europe, Africa, Greenland, and Australia, essentially. And Region C is the rest of Asia.
Okay.
So there's a possibility that it will be Region B.
we have the same region code as Japan, but not that of
Well,
the actual other
I
English-speaking countries.
I think that's because even with DVDs, or not even DVDs, but with what am I trying to say? With the frame rates that they had,
Mm-hmm.
was it PAL and NTSC? Didn't we have the same as Japan?
Yes, but PAL and NTST are no longer even a matter anymore.
I know, but I could see things relating to that having caused those two to merge.
Yeah, but you would think, we would be Region E. Region E would be the US, Canada, England, Australia, and any other country in the world that speaks English.
You would think that.
But then it would be harder to censor American DVD releases in other countries.
Not really.
Not really. They can totally control that if they really wanted to.
Anyway,
yeah.
Anyway, it's a shiny box. I wouldn't mind having it if I can get my hands
Yes,
on it. But we'll wait and see.
If I can order it and it's not ridiculously expensive to get in the U.S., I will be ordering it.
Mm-hmm. And I will say also, even though the movie itself is not the most accurate compared to the original story, I will say that the Dalek Invasion of Earth was the better of the two movies.
Yeah.
It's better than two source materials.
And, it might also be the fact that even if this doesn't come out in the United States, this might prompt a Blu-ray release in the U.S.
True.
That would be based off of the master for this disc.
Mm-hmm. Which is also possible. We'll have to wait and see.
This movie features Bernard Cribbins.
Yep.
Yes.
This is the Bernard Cribbins movie, yes.
Anyway, moving on. BBC Worldwide has given an update of the last classic story, the last classic story expected to be released on DVD, The Underwater Menace. They're hoping to release The Underwater Menace in 2015. Their statement is, we delayed the release to ensure that our publishing schedule is phased appropriately across the year and episodes will be animated. That's great, BBC Worldwide. Except, why didn't you animate Web of Fear when it came out, considering there was only one episode? This one, Underwater Menace, the only episode that is known to exist is episode 2. That means you're animating 3 to 5 episodes.
That's a long damn time, BBC.
And it's not like it's one of the, cult classic, it's not an episode that has as big a following as something like Web of Fear either.
Yeah, it's nowhere near as popular as Web of Fear.
Like, it's not something that people will be flocking to Amazon to buy, or whatever the UK, I guess, I don't know if the UK has something more popular.
Yes, they do. They have Amazon.
No, I mean, they have Amazon, but I wasn't sure if that was their biggest online distributor. But either way, people will not be flocking. People will not be flocking to the internet. Oh my God, The Underwater Menace. There will be a few hardcore fans, but it's not something like Web of Fear where it has a massive following due to a major character.
Yeah, it seems to be kind of a frivolous. It's like they threw a dart at the list of missing episodes and go, we'll do this one.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, if you're going to take the time and spend the money to animate them, animate the ones that you can animate fast and cheaply.
Yeah.
And the ones that people really, really, really want to see. And if you can hit both with the same coin, bonus.
Yeah. Well, maybe they're saving the Web of Fear for the Blu-ray release.
I'm hoping, because this indicates that all future Doctor Who episode releases will be in Blu-ray.
Yeah,
This is
was
probably
mentioned
also
as
a
the
hint
last
that they're
DVD.
also probably going to re-release all their old stuff on Blu-ray again, which means that they'll be finishing all their DVD releases by the time the format that replaces Blu-ray comes out.
Can you just imagine how terrible it would be if some of them, they're like, oh, if they just decide, all right, we're not, anything that's on DVD is staying there. We're starting over with Blu-ray. So to complete the collection, you have to have DVDs and Blu-rays mixed together.
Isn't that
Yeah,
just, digital?
it's just kind of annoying to me because I had this issue back in the 90s when the DVD revolution finally began to replace VHS. I had just gotten
Did they release all of the VHS versions on DVD?
um they got close. They were still missing stuff, I'm pretty certain. But I remember the fact that they had just released the E-Space trilogy on VHS, and I had just bought it.
Ah,
And then I think it was like less than a month later, the BBC Worldwide basically announces that they're going to be re-releasing everything on DVD.
at least they didn't turn around and announce and release the the DVD of E-Space a month later.
No, that was actually several years before that came out again. They started with The Key to Time. And if they're going to be really releasing everything on Blu-ray, that's probably what they're going to be starting with again.
Well, they started with Spearhead from Space for Blu-ray, right? To test the water.
Yes. But what I mean, they start going into mass release. They'll probably release a second edition of Spearhead. Lord knows, whenever they run out of DVDs to release, they start releasing special editions of everything they've released before.
Who's wrestling with their mic?
It's not me because I'm hearing it too.
I'm looking for it. I'm not seeing a flicker.
I'm not doing anything.
That's
anyway.
Weird. Okay.
Well,
that's all I have to say about the Underwater Menace.
Our next piece of news isn't necessarily news, but it is an awesome piece of cover art. They've announced the DVD cover for the German Season 25 box set. And it does have some, at least I think, some brilliant artwork on there. The German DVDs they did announce will include both the German dub and the original English version. I imagine it might be a little out of the way for American viewers wanting that just to get a 6th Doctor box set, a 7th Doctor box set, but then again, 7th Doctor box sets are pretty awesome to have, and this is some nice artwork on here. So,
oh yeah, that ship that you were talking about, yeah, that's the Dalek ship. That's the Dalek drop ship.
Combining these two articles, might be a hint. If you start releasing Doctor Who Classic on Blu-ray in the U.S., start releasing season box sets.
Yes.
Yes, that would be nice. That would be wonderful. That would slim down our need to constantly shop.
And considering that's what they've done with New Who, it would not, and I'm assuming it was successful because they keep doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Do it with Classic Who.
Even if you can't fully do it for the 1st and 2nd Doctors, start it with the first season of the 3rd Doctor, and go from there.
All the color Doctors you can do it with.
Yes. Do it season by season with all the color Doctors at the very least.
That'd be awesome. 2 to 3 seasons a year, in order, and you could shoot through the 3rd, 4th Doctor within 2-3 years and be on the 5th and 6th. And let's face it, the 6th really don't take that long. Anything else?
It'll be a lull for about a year, and then it'll pick up again.
Not really. Just the artwork on there. Yeah, the artwork on there's got imagery from Remembrance of the Daleks.
Silver Nemesis.
Yeah, Silver Nemesis. Greatest Show in the Galaxy. Sorry, that name always escapes me, and I think that's about it, unless some of the background is from something else. I'm trying to remember what the other story that year was. Oh, the other story that year was Bannerman, wasn't it?
No, Delta and the Bannerman was season 24.
Okay.
Which episodes did you remember to the Daleks?
I mentioned Daleks, Silver Nemesis, Greatest Show in the Galaxy.
Happiness Patrol was the other episode.
There we go. Yes, there's no image of the Candyman or of the Margaret Thatcher replacement on this image, though.
That might be because they just kind of took what was mostly the best about that season.
Yeah, and that
Happiness
was not a
Patrol,
highlight.
and to a lesser extent, Silver Nemesis are more or less forgettable.
Cybermen are well liked. Silver Nemesis is not, but Cybermen are.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, the next piece of news we have is that Candy Jar Books have announced a new series of novels featuring Colonel Alistair Gordon Lethbridge Stewart, aka the early years of the Brigadier. Lethbridge Stewart, as you know, first appeared in 1968, The Web of Fear.
Wait, so the Web of Fear is popular enough to have a line of sequel novels set in between Web of Fear and the Invasion, but it's not popular enough to animate an episode.
Fuck you,
Apparently.
BBC.
And this might not only be a sequel to Web of Fear, this might actually be also prior to Web of Fear too.
Either way, if it's Colonel Lethbridge Stewart, it's
still based on that episode.
Around Web of Fear.
Still based around that story and the stuff that would happen soon afterwards in his timeline, at least.
Yep. The new novels will feature the young Lethbridge Stewart and will be set shortly after the events of the Web of Fear. So they are sequel novels. The novels which will be released quarterly are The Forgotten Son by Andy Frankham Allen, Horror of Detson by Lance Parkin, The Schizoid Earth by David A. McKinty, and Mutually Assured Domination by Nick Walters. The novels are fully licensed by the executor of the Heisman Literary Estate. Mervyn Heisman was one of the creators of the character, and endorsed by Henry Lincoln, the other creator. The first novel will be released on February 22nd, which is the 4-year anniversary of the death of Nicholas Courtney.
Moment of silence. And continue.
Yeah, I might actually have to get some of these.
Yeah, I'd have to say that the art alone looks interesting.
Because it really will show, it's kind of bridging the gap between Web of Fear and the Invasion. That's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Moving on to our next piece, which brings us to Doctor Who at the awards. It's a minor bit of an award-ish bit, but kind of an award. Stephen Moffat has once again come in on Media Garden's list of the top 100 most powerful people in UK media. In 2011, he was in 92 and has been on the list since then. Looks like he at 84 this year, he's 3 places higher than he was in 2013.
So, yeah, I'd actually like to see the other list of the people in there. Okay, they have a small list.
Yeah. About Moffat, they say the debate is not whether Moffat warrants inclusion, but which of his BBC One shows is more important. Doctor Who wins in terms of sheer volume, plus there was the 50th anniversary special and Peter Capaldi's debut in the lead role. But it was Sherlock, as reinvented by Moffat with Mark Gatiss, that won a hat-trick of Emmys, and it is hard even for a Time Lord to outshine the star power of its leads, Benedict Cumberbatch and Martin Freeman. Not only are they 2 of BBC One's most important dramas, they are also among the biggest earners of the corporation's commercial arm, BBC Worldwide.
Okay, let's see. They also list the current controller of BBC Drama at number 71, controller of BBC One at number 25, director of BBC Television at number 12, BBC General is the top 5, and the new head of the BBC Trust is number 17. And number 42 was Tim Davie, the head of the BBC's commercial arm, BBC Worldwide.
Head of the commercial arm, because it's life, universe, and everything.
I wonder where Jeremy Clarkson comes in on this list. And Graham Norton.
Kind of wondering who number 1, 2, and 3 are.
I don't know. I'd like to actually know where the actual list is.
Right. Oh, they say they say number 4 is the person with the top British listing came in at number 4, but this is okay. So that means that 1, 2, and 3 are non-British, but they're influential in British media.
Okay. Actually, I clicked on a link near the top and I got a list, I think.
Oh, okay.
Number 1, Gary Page, co-founder, chief executive of Google.
Oh, yeah.
Number 2, Mark Zuckerberg, founder, chief executive, Facebook. Number 3, Tim Cook, chief executive, Apple.
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
Wondering.
So that's pretty much.
You know what? This actually reminds me of the thing that I left out of the news, but I was thinking about mentioning, and that's that Christopher Lee came out with a metal single for Christmas.
Oh, I have to stop for a moment. Number 20, PewDiePie.
Christopher Lee is not on this list, at least not that I can control that.
He's the 20 most influential person. Wow.
Yep.
He's the most popular YouTuber in the world right now, dude. What can I say?
He was just on
South Park as well.
South Park, yep.
Kim Kardashian is number 100.
Benedict Cumberbatch is number 50.
Oh, Jeremy Clarkson is at 68. David Lynch at 67.
The article also mentions that the top actress on this list is Sheridan Smith at number 62. Apparently, she is a former Big Finish actress. I'm not with her.
Graham Norton isn't on the list. I'm kind of surprised by that. Simon Cowell on there?
Yeah, I saw him. I don't mention him. For various reasons, I don't mention him.
Yeah, I was just thinking of influential British.
18, by the way, Randy. He's number 18.
Yeah. All right, so
I would beat him out. Oh, well.
I can only wish that
the founder of BuzzFeed is number 30. The founder of Snapchat is number 31.
Never heard of Snapchat.
So, in a horrible travesty of voting events, Sherlockians beat out Doctor Whovians in the Radio Times 2014 TV show champion vote. For many people, it was hard because it was Moffat versus Moffat. Genius character versus genius character, and for the majority of the vote itself, Doctor Who was leading these polls. Then, overnight, with less than 24 hours to go, there was a huge resurgence from Sherlock fans that managed to barely beat out Doctor Who for the final vote.
Mm-hmm.
This is a horrible travesty, and
Whovians, where were you?
Who was paying attention? Who was watching
I was not paying attention.
to lead the counterattack?
I was off somewhere in time and space.
God damn it.
It's always wibbly wobbly.
I was off somewhere in space, but not time.
Anyway, we can only regroup, mourn our losses, bury our dead, and prepare for when we do this all again in 2015, and we will beat the Sherlockian bastards.
We'll beat them with a shovel that we'll bury them with.
Until then, just hold your head and soldier on. Soldier on, people.
And now that we've soured, now that we've soured everyone's opinion on Benedict Cumberbatch, which is probably a poor way to order the news, he does have a new role in a major movie coming up, and that is Doctor Strange, the Sorcerer Supreme of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
I don't see it.
I will admit that it's hard to see it physically on him.
Yet.
It's hard to see it physically on him right now, but I guarantee you, with enough makeup and everything else there I have to put him through, he might look it a little bit better when we actually get there.
Interestingly, from the New York Times article, I note that Doctor Strange first appeared in 1963, the same year as Doctor Who.
Matt, if you can, quickly throw up a Google on Doctor Strange and pull up a picture of him.
Oh, yes. The audience might not know who Doctor Strange is.
I just can't picture Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange.
How could anyone not know who Doctor Strange is? Everyone knows who Doctor Strange is. Doctor Strange is the most popular comic book character of all time, isn't he?
Maybe in certain circles, just like Ghost Rider.
He's awesome in New Avengers. Don't know about popularity.
He does get involved in a lot of crossovers and stuff, so it's not like he's completely left out in the cold all the time. Oh, here's a really good picture of him. Oh wow, that's a really close-up picture of him too. I'm gonna have to zoom out a little bit. But yeah, here's the thing I get out of looking at Doctor Strange and then looking back at Cumberbatch. Cumberbatch is too friendly-faced. Doctor Strange is kind of grim and almost angry-looking most of the time.
I don't know, because they generally in Sherlock he does not go for the friendly face.
Yeah, when you largely see Cumberbatch, you're seeing media shots, and he looks congenial there. I mean, there are worse choices. I mean, could you imagine casting Hugh Grant as Doctor Strange?
Oof.
No.
It's not like they're casting him to play Ricardo Montalban. Oh wait.
And it was.
Oh wait.
And that's a whole different kettle of fish. Cumberbatch is not Ricardo Montalban. I mean, every now and then he had a moment where he almost seemed to almost be there, but 90% of the time, no. It's very hard to see Cumberbatch as Khan and try to think that even a divergent timeline could bring him from Montalban to that. It was just kind of
Meh.
out of it. And speaking of Star Trek, since this is the perfect segue, in non-related news, of course, it looks like Roberto Orci has left the helm of the new Star Trek movie. He had been working as a producer and writer with Alex Kurtzman on the first two films in the series, and he has rather abruptly stepped down from the director's position. It's not clear what's behind the decision. He, of course, replaced J.J. Abrams, who defected to Star Wars when offered the spot. It's we don't know if he'd had issues with how the direction of the film was going. There are reports suggesting he'll maintain his producing and writing credit, but it's also not known what this is going to do for filming time for Star Trek 3, which was planning on shooting shortly into the new year.
Depends on how
2016 release.
Star Trek 3 should be directed by Leonard Nimoy. Got the wrong time.
You know, he might actually do that if he's not acting.
He might do it even if he is acting, as long as the role is small enough.
Movie Unconscious, and he still directed it.
Yeah, I know. But he's a lot older now.
Half the movie, he wasn't in for 3/4 of the movie.
Well, he was a corpse.
He was a corpse? He was a corpse? Or he was,
Unconscious.
He also directed 4, and he was in a good chunk of that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Leonard Nimoy is a hell of a kick-ass director, and if they want to make a connection between the old and the new series, put him back. Put him in the director's chair again. But please,
I'm trying to think of his name
please, do not give the directing to Shatner.
I'm trying to think of his name now. Commander Riker was also brought up. I can't think of his actual name.
Frakes is a good choice as well. He's done some good directing work.
Yeah.
So is Spiner.
Yeah, he started actually directing during the 3rd season of Next Gen.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's
he's
what
done
they
a lot
really
of
should
stuff.
do to make the connection and get the same feel, and just have people who know Trek, have people who can direct, that have worked on Trek, direct these movies.
Yeah, as long as they give him a good enough story, I know he can pull it off, because I believe he did First Contact, didn't he?
Yes, he did, and that's considered to be the best of the Next Generation films.
Riker did, or
Riker directed that one, yeah.
Frakes, yeah. But yeah, find somebody like that. Find somebody who can do it, who knows and loves the franchise, and wants to bring it, back into the feel that was Star Trek. Because that is, while I love the reboot, I love the concept of the reboot, I will admit that sometimes it does not feel like Star Trek.
Yeah, it does tend to veer away quite sharply at points.
Yeah, I remember everybody in 2009 talking about what a good Star Wars movie J.J. Abrams had made.
Yeah, well, that's what got him moved to Star Wars, and he had mentioned going into it that he was more of a Star Wars fan than a Star Trek fan.
Yeah.
And it shows, like, the way they tend to do their jumping to faster than light travel is indicative of Star Wars more than Star Trek. And there's a few other little things that you can tell. It would be nice to have the some of the classic. Wow, it's kind of hard to refer to Next Generation, DS9, Voyager people as classics now because that had always been Shatner, Nimoy, Kelly, that had always been those guys were always considered the classic Star Trek actors, and now all of them are.
Yeah.
That's kind of.
Hey, doesn't George Takei direct also?
I don't know.
I don't know about directing. I know he does a lot of acting still.
He does a lot of voice acting and some acting, but more voice acting.
I've seen him in a fair amount
he's
of
been doing a lot of stage
acting.
acting.
He was in Heroes. He was in Star Wars: The Clone Wars. He was in something else I watched recently. He was in Scrubs.
Clone Wars. He was in only vocally, right?
He was voice acting in Clone Wars. So was David Tennant.
Yep, as for one episode. Takei was also in Superhero Squad show. He played Galactus.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, that's right.
Takei was Hero's father in Heroes.
Yes.
Along with Eccleston and Heroes was another one that had a lot of people from different sci-fi franchises.
Yeah.
Yep. I think I don't know. I'd have to look up George Takei and see what else he's done. But that's not to do right now.
Yeah, that's going on.
I think Matt had another movie he wanted to talk about.
Well, didn't we have another thing yet to?
Yes, but that's
just go ahead since we're talking
category.
about.
I guess since we're talking about movies, I just recently noticed that a new trailer came out for Mad Max recently. By the way, this one is called Fury Road. I don't see any rating for it yet. But from what I've seen, and it was updated in July, is that they are planning to release this film on the 15th of May.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I knew that they were filming it.
Oh, it's definitely done filming. I've seen the both trailers now, and it's only getting better every time I see them.
Mel Gibson in it or not?
No, it's a new guy replacing for Max.
Okay, so it's a complete reboot of it?
I don't know, because it's also written and directed by the same guy that did the trilogy.
Okay, yeah, it's Tom Hardy as Max.
And from what I can see of his acting in this, it looks like he can do a decent Max.
Yeah, well, Gibson was getting a little long in the tooth for a role, plus he kind of went crazy.
Yeah, that's just it. When the actor goes crazy, you kind of have to replace him eventually, either way. I really am wondering where exactly this is going to go, because it looks like it could be a reboot, but again, I can't guarantee that it's a reboot at all. It might just be the fourth movie in the series now instead.
Just with a new actor, just replacing it a la James Bond. That's possible. Yeah, the fact that George Miller is behind this as writer and director is a good sign that it's not going to be a bad movie.
Yes.
Unlike the Evil Dead remake, where there was basically nothing put into it.
Mm-hmm. By the way, he was actually only producer for Beyond Thunderdome. Oh, no,
really?
no, that's producer cards. Never mind. I'm looking at the wrong thing. Here we go. Yep, he did all the Mad Max movies.
Yep. Suddenly, why can I not remember who did the Evil Dead movies?
Sam Raimi.
Sam Raimi.
Raimi, thank you. It was
Except
just one
for
of those
the most recent one. I don't remember his role in that, but it was very minor, if anything.
It was taking the intellectual property money to the bank. That was his entire involvement with the new movie.
Well, I know he was talking about if it was successful doing a crossover between the two Evil Dead franchises. So I'm sure that he at least had more involvement in that than the originals had in Halloween. He at least got a chance to look at it and say he liked it.
All talking on that stopped after the movie was released. And he has made some murmuring about making more Evil Dead movies with Campbell.
Yes, I have been hearing about that. That they're canceling the crossover and just going to do more Campbell, because the last half of that movie did save itself. Apparently, the first half is so atrocious that most people don't like it.
I felt the same way. The first half of 2013 Evil Dead was abysmal. The last half I absolutely loved.
Okay.
But yeah, back on the topic though, Mad Max looks fan-freaking-tastic. And as a fan, since I was like 16 when I first saw Mad Max, the squees are still coming, by the way.
Yeah, I'd love to see this. I also want to see how, I think they were still working on that remake of Escape from New York.
I keep hearing little tidbits of possible rumors here and there about that too.
Yeah, I want to see how that goes. I'm not entirely
I bet you the idea for pulling that out will suddenly skyrocket when Mad Max hits, and if it's a success like it should be.
Yeah, except for the fact that by the look of the directing and the way it was going, it sounds like it was going the way of the Evil Dead movie, so...
Yeah, well, hopefully that'll make them pay more attention and wipe that slate clean and start over fresh for that.
Okay.
But anyway, we'll wait and see.
I think that's all we have to say about that.
Mm-hmm.
So moving on to our last piece of news, Bill, go ahead.
Well, less even news, more of the introduction to interviews, but this is a little different topic than the other interviews. Those who have been paying attention to social media will have seen that there have been a few articles spread about Stephen Moffat talking about a woman eventually playing the Doctor. This has been a major topic of fan discussion ever since Missy was announced to be the Master in secret.
Well, this has been a major topic of fan discussion every few years since 1982.
It is, but it's been especially consistent ever since Darkwater aired.
Yeah, and it has been, and Darkwater, I think I'd mentioned the fact that it was meant to pave the way.
Yes, I feel the same way. Here, Moffat says a few sensible things, but he also puts his foot in his mouth. If you guys might recall, it was one of the elections a few years back. One of the politicians was talking about having binders full of women trying to fill female jobs, but with female candidate or fill jobs with female candidates, and there was quite a bit of backlash against that. Well, Moffat seems to be following in those footsteps by talking about having a folder full of women. A folder of women, whatever. So, but he mentions the fact that he's had difficulty getting female writers that he's selected. Now, I don't know if that's because they're too busy, they don't want to work with him, or for some other reason. As far as the Doctor, he mentions that most of the people that spoke out against the Doctor being women, he at least according to what he felt was the truth, were women saying that. I honestly think it was mainly, younger women that wanted to shag Matt Smith, but...
Quite possible. Not actual fans, just people that were looking for an attractive face to watch.
He had mentioned when Peter Capaldi was cast that he didn't feel enough people wanted a female Doctor, which kind of... I don't know.
That screams of bad DC talk.
It kind of goes against the whole idea of progressivism, but...
I think he's right in a way, because a lot of people at the time were screaming for going back to the classic Who. The way it was before the new series, and that was part of his reason for casting Capaldi, was trying to get back to that more classic feel, which he has not yet achieved.
Nope. Not at all. Not
no, and even though they made a huge deal about Series 8 feeling like classic, it really doesn't at all.
No, it doesn't.
No.
It started
a completely different direction.
No, but I think that was the entire reason behind that. A move back to classic movement was the fact that he was getting people mentioning, why isn't Doctor Who back like it was in the old days? And that was why he decided that they wouldn't be ready for a female Doctor at this point, because he wanted to go back to the older Doctor motif. The Doctor as the mentor, the grandfatherish character.
I'm sorry, ever since I read the line about not enough people wanting it, my brain said, well, probably not enough people wanted women to vote. And the more you talk about people wanting to go back to the olden days, my mind keeps continuing that analogy. Well, in the olden days, they voted for all male candidates, and it's not helping his argument then.
Ow.
It's kind of blaming the victims. Kind
Yeah.
of, Like, well, if you just wanted it more...
Who don't believe enough in it!
Do better.
Yeah. I don't even know if it's that. I think it's more. He's not hearing every single Doctor Who fan say that they want women in power, and therefore isn't going to bother. Essentially, not power per se, but in the role.
It's I agree with that Moffat's choice in that casting, but I will say why. It's because the fact that Doctor Who had gotten so off track with Matt Smith that they really needed to go back to brass tacks and start over, and he hasn't done that yet.
Right.
He still hasn't done it, even though we dropped Matt Smith.
But still, I mean,
it's still Moffat doing terrible things to the show.
You can still go back to classic Who-esque storytelling and have a Doctor that's not a white man.
Yeah, you could. You honestly could, because it's still the Doctor.
Possibly.
But with Moffat in charge, that'll never happen.
Now, granted, Moffat has been clearly a proponent of having a female Doctor since. It was a comedy sketch, but even as far as Curse of Fatal Death, it was clear that he was somewhat interested in playing with the idea. But
yes,
the fact that he does
definitely
kind of
not Joanna Lumley.
The fact that he does kind of see it more as a comedy sketch idea than a serious idea is all the more reason why he should not be the producer overseeing the first female Doctor.
Yeah.
No.
At least unless his co-executive producer, which seems to keep switching out a lot, is a woman who's very adamant about certain things.
I can put her foot down.
Come back, Julie Gardner. Come back, Julie Gardner.
Yeah, there's one.
Well, we'll see how it goes once this new female writer kicks in.
If the female writing kicks in.
Yeah, she's writing one episode if they keep it, so I'm not holding my breath for that to make many changes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, if they would turn around and announce, in spring of next year, oh, by the way, the scripts are in, and half of them are by women,
that'd be a hell of a change.
I'll have something to say, but until then, I'm not holding my breath.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even think it needs to be half of them by women, just more than one episode a season at best. Or one episode in what, 6 to 8 seasons?
It's been one episode per Doctor so far. Written by a woman. Give or take.
Yeah, we're just going to keep circling this, though, so we might as well move on. This is old hat.
Yeah.
All I say is the fact that Moffat can't get it right as it is now.
Yes, and we've discussed this numerous times too. Is that we definitely don't want him trying to change it up any more than he's already failed at.
I am kind of wondering if he's reached the point in the BBC where anybody who's paired with him is just going to assume that because his work has been so popular that he's doing it right and is not going to question him at all, which would make sense why his co-executive producers for the past few years seem to be interchangeable. Like, I could not tell you any different thing that any of the executive producers working with him have brought to the show. It just feels like the Moffat show.
No, it really does. I mean, we really haven't had a strong executive producer since Julie Gardner. And Gardner and Davies worked well because Gardner kept Davies on track and kept him working on what he's supposed to do, and Davies kept everyone else doing what he's supposed to do. And apparently nobody's keeping track on keeping Moffat on track to keep everybody else doing what they're supposed to do. And of course, this means that Moffat's continuing from what we hear through at least through series 9. So we're going to get, same shit, different season.
Now we have gone on a bit longer with the news than expected, and we do have some interviews to look at during a time. We will have to spend a little bit less time than I'd hoped on these, but we've got 3 interviews, which we probably will not completely look at. Essentially about this coming Christmas special. The Radio Times did one, Doctor Who magazine did one, and the BBC released a few. I'm not sure. I'm assuming it was, I guess, a different part of the BBC interviewing the BBC people. That's kind of weird, but I'm sure that happens.
It's but these are essentially, one arm doing...
Yeah. There's essentially various things on the Christmas special. One quote from that is Nick Frost mentions, "My Santa is cross, mean, and curt, as well as cheery and funny. He's got a bit of Robert De Niro in Mean Streets, and he has history with the Doctor. It's not talked about explicitly, but they have beef with each other from way back." So this ties into what Ron was mentioning when we saw the trailer about how the Doctor seemed to have a bone to pick with Santa.
Yeah, he seems to be treating Santa like a villain. And... He doesn't seem to be the benevolent, jolly, benevolent man that we see Santa in most of our stuff. And there's a sinister thing about him that's putting the Doctor on edge. And I'm kind of wondering what that's all going to be.
Speaking of how Santa is, there's also a quote from Moffat in the Doctor Who magazine interview. He says, "I think I'm being pretty open that it's Santa meets Alien meets The Thing from Another World meets Miracle on 34th Street. It's a weird mashup. There's a base under siege. There are scary monsters. It's one of the scariest Christmas specials we've made. Actually, I guess he trails off.
So it's basically...
I'm sure that was intended to be more dramatic the way he said it.
He's basically trying to write a Patrick Troughton Christmas special.
Maybe.
Base Under Siege.
Now I'm picturing Peter Capaldi with a recorder.
Base Under Siege with Christmas. Obakaby.
We'll see how that fares.
I think a fair amount of the David Tennant Christmas specials were bases under siege. I think.
No.
Let's see.
Christmas Invasion definitely was.
Christmas Invasion really wasn't a base under siege. It was a alien. It was
an alien invasion.
Alien threatens the Earth. It was more a third Doctor story than a second Doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fair.
Christmas Invasion.
Then it was today's
Runaway
episode.
Bride.
Oh, the Runaway Bride. Then today's episode.
Which was also kind of a third Doctor-y episode.
Yeah. And then today's is kind of a second Doctor in tidbits.
In tidbits. But also it's kind of a fourth Doctor-y one.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, kind of fourthy.
There are some elements of it, but
and then we get the next Doctor,
which is actually kind of an 80s.
Yeah, that was more or less an 80s special.
Yeah.
Feel to it.
80s feel to it. Then End of Time, which was mastery, 80s mastery.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's more of an 80s. Okay. Then we get to Moffat stuff, and most of Moffat stuff was just kind of
really bland.
Moffat, on itself.
Speaking of Moffat, he mentions of Santa. It does look like the most insane moment when Santa turns up, but we haven't gone off our rockers. No, Santa is written in properly in a science fiction way into Doctor Who.
We'll see about that.
I've always had a very clear impression of Santa, but when we got Nick Frost, well, first of all, how perfect is his name?
I was seeing if any of the Jenna Coleman interviews actually had her
They're not going to confirm if she's going to be in another episode after this or not.
No, they're not going to confirm.
They're going to do their best to get through season 9 without announcing whether or not she is in series 9.
Yeah, they're going to try and get through filming before they ever really mention it.
Yeah, I
most likely we'll find
to...
out by seeing images of her on set.
Yeah, I know. Well, actually, we will probably know by the end of the
Christmas
special.
Maybe.
I'm just browsing through for other bits. Apparently, Peter Capaldi is a fan of Hot Fuzz and Shaun of the Dead.
I'm a fan of Hot Fuzz. That's my new favorite movie.
He mentions that
I watched that a good chunk of like a week ago.
Oh, okay, it is a good
and movie. I loved it to death.
Randy down to 11.
He mentions that the Santa is not a robot or an alien, but he is a little bit cantankerous. He's a little bit like the Doctor, and at first they don't really get on together.
He's a Time Lord.
Oh my god! I want to see how they're going to be doing this.
I could see him being a Time Lord. He's got a bag that's bigger on the inside.
So
how do the Doctor and Clara become
Santa, the Doctor, and James Bond all hang around Earth as leftover Time Lords.
I mentioned Santa appears on the roof of Clara's house, and only the Doctor knows the danger of it. So Santa being there means danger already, apparently.
I still say we're going to have to wait and see how things go. These interviews will tell us nothing.
Yeah, they're not really telling us anything substantial. They're deliberately skirting substantial.
No, yeah, well, that's kind of expected.
They will, and they always will. It's kind of pointless to bother.
Yeah.
To be honest.
So
I think it's high time we should
on a scale of 1 to 10, he's a 7 as far as being a Doctor Who fan.
He said he was a big Tom Baker fan. He liked Sylvester McCoy, Peter Davidson. So he was a 70s and 80s Doctor Who fan. I noticed he left out Colin Baker, but so does everybody.
For the most part.
Everybody except for Big Finish fans tend to leave out Colin.
Yeah. If you're really big into Big Finish, you probably love Colin Baker right now.
Yeah,
anyway.
he's still not my favorite. I prefer, Paul McGann for my Big Finish listing pleasure.
Anywho, I think it's time we probably moved on then.
Yeah, I think we've covered everything there is really to mention in those. So I guess we are summarizing.
All right. Well, Voyage of the Damned. We start pretty much where we left off, either at the end of Series 3 or at the end of Time Crash, depending on which version you prefer, with a basically giant ship crashing through the walls of the TARDIS. The Doctor is holding on to a life preserver that fell off the ship, which says Titanic, and has given his classic what, flat what. He then proceeds to go to the console, flip a few switches, pull the thing, and everything seems to go backwards with the TARDIS walls reforming. And with a quick few more switch flipping, the TARDIS lands on board this Titanic, which turns out to be a gigantic starship. He smoozes, hobnobs around, talks to some of the people that are there. Interesting. They're all from a planet called, what was it? Stowe. Thank you. I knew it started with an S, ended with an O.
Yep. Okay, I wasn't sure if they were all from that planet or not. I knew
everybody that was from that planet mentioned. Everybody that you talked to mentioned Stowe, so we're pretty sure it was a Stovian cruise ship. That's basically traveling around, exposing their culture to alien cultures. They're basically enlightening themselves the way that a anthropologist would, I guess. And to do that, they're experiencing Earth Christmas. Telling the story of Christmas there is a Stovian by the name of Mr. Copper, who is quite quickly getting all of it very, very wrong. This kind of bemuses the Doctor a bit, and he also makes friends with one of the cocktail waitresses, a woman by the name of Astrid Perth, who signed up for this cruise to basically see the universe because things back home weren't really interesting. Also on the ship are these angel-like robots called the Host, and they keep seeming to have little problems with malfunctioning. The cruise liner itself is made by Max. What was it?
It started with a C, I think. Yeah, Capricorn.
Max Capricorn. Yeah.
Max Capricorn Enterprises, and
his
are
name is
headlined
Max.
by yes, because his name is Max, and he has the smile with the gold tooth that does the Retson ting. He's appeared on various moving picture ads throughout the ship. The Doctor makes friends with a couple of blue-collar people that won their tickets and decides to join them on their little downward trip to Earth, in which he discovers that they travel to London, which is completely and totally empty. The Doctor goes over to a newspaper vendor who's still there, which turns out to be Bernard Cribbins. Yay! And actually will later be identified, not in this episode, as Wilfred Mott, who tells the Doctor that everybody has basically fled London because of the last 2 years, i.e. the Christmas invasion and the runaway bride, and only himself and the Queen are actually staying in town. The Queen to prove that it is safe to be in London during the holidays. The Doctor is slightly bemused by this, but before he can fully explain everything, he's beamed back to the ship due to a malfunction. Meanwhile, on the bridge of the ship, the captain has dismissed everybody except a young pilot. His first ship has chosen to stay because it's required 2 people. The captain has since sabotaged the shields and has magnetized the hull, attracting a swarm of meteoroids heading towards the ship. This has alerted the young man, but the captain holds him at bay with a gun, telling him that he's already dying and that they offered a sum of money to his family to do this. Who they are is not revealed at this time. The Doctor, meanwhile, back on the ship, quickly senses that something's wrong, and looking outside realizing that the shields are down by hacking a panel, and that there are meteoroids heading to the ship. He tries to alert everybody, but security is quickly called, and only a few people realize what's about to happen. Of course, the meteoroids strike the ship, causing huge damage. And things start shutting down. I believe the captain is killed when that happens, and the young pilot manages to keep the engines going just barely. There follows a scene of the Doctor and a handful of survivors, including his blue-collar friends, a arrogant prick, Dr. Copper, and Astrid, and Bonacafalata, a small, red spiky alien, all trying to get to the bridge. Unfortunately, the Host has now turned on everybody and is trying to kill them all. Several scenes occurred, and the 2 blue-collar people are killed in the process, as the Doctor realizes that most of the main issues come from floor 31, which was also what was causing the power drain previously. I am going to try to make this short, as we are short of time, but eventually almost everybody the Doctor's with is killed. The Doctor, the pilot, isolates himself in the bridge, so the Doctor convinces the Host that as a stowaway, he's supposed to go to floor 31, where he discovers the person in authority is actually Max Capricorn, or the cyborg that used to be Max Capricorn, as he's essentially lived well past his lifespan by augmenting himself cybernetically. His business has failed, and he's basically using the destruction of this as a revenge trip to take out the people that replaced him on the board. Astrid manages to convince the pilot to teleport her to the Doctor's location, and she manages to kill Max with a forklift, herself falling into the fiery pit of the engines.
Mm-hmm.
The Doctor then, thus without a command structure, the Doctor manages to co-opt the Host into taking him to the bridge, letting him in and managing to divert the ship's engines, having them reignite in free fall. Just barely missing Buckingham Palace, where he's wished Merry Christmas by the Queen, and a thank you for saving her life. Getting the ship back into orbit, the Doctor tries to use the teleport bracelets to bring back Astrid, but unfortunately it's too late, and she's nothing but stardust at this point. He does manage to say some form of a goodbye. And as the authorities are coming to investigate this horrible accident, the Doctor and Mr. Copper slip back down to Earth, where Dr. Copper plans on spending it in retirement. The Doctor then proceeds to go on his way. End of story.
This is the first episode that I actually rewatched it, thinking what the 12th Doctor would do differently.
You know, there's so much that I like and hate in this episode.
Oh, yeah.
Aaron said the same thing while we were watching it. But
it took me
about 24 hours worth of digesting it to agree with her.
There's so much they do right, but there's almost just as much that they do terribly, terribly wrong in this.
I mean, I can't say it's complete and total crap, because you've got 2 scenes with Bernard Cribbins in it.
Yeah.
You got
Bernard.
And it was really, if it was not for this episode, we wouldn't have Wilfred Mott.
True.
Right.
There are other scenes which are really good, but then there's a lot of things in there that's not. So let's go ahead and start doing the good, the bad, and the ugly. What you liked, what you didn't like, etc. That seems to be our new format. Let's stick with it. And we're going to start with Tim as our... welcome back, Tim, by the way.
Oh, thank you. It's good to be here.
All right,
Yes.
So, in general, don't give me a specific scene, just in general for this, what did you like about this episode?
In general, I did like the quick pacing of it.
Yeah.
And sort of the the minor characters' performances is especially the captain and the helmsman.
Alonzo,
Yes.
Alonzo,
who was named
Alonzo.
just so David Tennant could say Alonzo.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
He would come back later briefly at the end of Time, too.
Yes, he would.
Yes.
He is a minor reoccurring reference.
Okay, so, Matt, in general, what did you like?
In general, what did I like? I think I liked the general feel of what they were trying to accomplish with this episode. We mentioned it a little bit previously in this podcast, that it kind of feels like a Third Doctor thing, and we say that it feels like a Third Doctor episode in the nicest way possible, because there were some generally good stuff there.
We said this felt like a Fourth Doctor.
It felt like it feels like a mix.
Invasion that we felt was a Third Doctor one.
It feels like a mix. There's definitely some Third Doctor-isms here and there, but it does. I think the overall arcing story of it does feel a little more like a Fourth. Because the fourth does tend to do a lot more mysteries than the third did.
Yeah, and it's not really so much of a mystery too. The Fourth Doctor did a few ship disaster ones too. I can think of 2 or 3 off the top of my head.
Although the 4th Doctor and the 10th Doctor have different opinions of the word unsinkable.
Yes.
Apparently, since he went on the Titanic.
And when I first saw this at the end of Series 3 and him holding the Titanic, I'm like, oh my god, are we actually going to find out that he did have something to do with the sinking of the Titanic?
That's actually my original hope too.
But instead we get the Starship Titanic, which wasn't even an original idea, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Douglas Adams had published a game by the same name about 7 years prior to this, and it also had become a novel by this point.
Anywho, that was my good part. I liked the decent doctorish flow of it, essentially. The very good Doctor Who feel to it.
Okay, Aaron, what did you like?
I like some of the characters. I like Astrid. I like the Balaclava Volata. I think I said that right.
Bala?
Cavalata.
That's why I said Balaclava Volata. Cavalata.
I think there was an L in there that shouldn't have been there, but whatever. We get who you're talking about.
You get the idea, right? Okay.
Yep. Balaclava, I think.
Kappa. Yeah, that's
it was Bana was the first two syllables because the Doctor wanted to nickname him and he didn't want him to.
Kapalata.
Yeah.
Something like that. Anyway.
Yeah, I like
midget.
Yeah, I liked him and Astrid. I did like the overweight couple. Unfortunately, I don't remember their names. I just remember them as the overweight couple.
Yeah.
Even though they were played mostly for comic relief, and that kind of pissed me off a little bit too. I have to.
We'll get to that.
But yeah, I like them. I think that everybody could have been expanded upon maybe a little bit more.
And that is
but
something.
They were all intriguing.
And that's something Davies could do. I think that Moffat has an issue with, is that Davies could create good, believable characters at the drop of a hat.
For the most part, yes. And
Moffat seems to have problems with many characterizations on both of his main and supporting characters.
Which, interestingly, I actually felt that a lot of the characters in the episode were very caricature-ish, which is an issue that I tend to have with Moffat specials. So,
all right. So, Bill, since you've volunteered yourself,
right? What I liked about this episode, I've been trying to figure out what I would say. I mean, there's a good bit with the mood, the direction, the music, and such. At least I think the music was. Yeah, at least
the music was pretty good. Yeah,
as it functions in the direction, because I couldn't really tell you a piece out of it. It just had that feel. There is also even if he is kind of over the top sometimes, the historian guy was fairly functional comic relief. I did find myself enjoying, being amused when he was describing what he understood as history. I realized that he might have made a Krampus reference if it was intentional, regarding only the good surviving Christmas. And those are basically my things for liking of this episode.
Dr. Copper was kind of like seeing the Futurama edited version of Christmas stories.
Yes.
It was kind of interesting. All right, what did I like? Of course, the issue, me going fifth now is the fact that, you all had a chance to say most of the things that I would have said.
Yeah, so you gotta be original.
Well, thanks for letting me go first, then.
Oh.
Something we haven't mentioned.
As much as Aaron disagrees with me on this, I tend to like most of Tennant's acting in this. His exuberance for the role.
I do agree with most of that.
Yeah. There's a few scenes that I'm going to have to touch on later.
Oh, I think we will.
of the way Tennant's acting or written?
Maybe both. We're not entirely sure because we don't know how things were going behind the scenes.
But I mean, especially in the beginning is when I really liked him when he was hobnobbing with the crowd.
Yeah.
And just managed to insert himself into any random conversation or goings-on.
Which I think is a general strength of Tennant and the 10th Doctor.
Yes.
Yeah, it's one of the things I really like about his particular persona. is just being able to slip in casually, and it's something that Matt Smith was not very good at, and that he was
absolutely
written
not.
that way deliberately.
Yes, he was deliberately the awkward duck.
And neither is Capaldi, but that's mostly because Capaldi tends to be more abrasive.
Capaldi would go into the conversation and insult somebody.
Yeah.
Or be very, very almost angry-like while talking to them, and that would garner some attention of itself.
I think in this episode he would be insulting people.
Possibly. Quite possibly.
So, what didn't you like about this episode? Let's start with you, Tim.
What I didn't like about this episode is that the plot point about people being prejudiced against cyborgs seemed kind of forced.
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
Aaron pointed that out to me during the viewing as well, and it doesn't really go anywhere.
Yes.
We never hear anything about it before or after.
Yeah, and there's not really a reason brought up. I mean, you could write a reason into it, like if this is set during or after one of the cyber wars.
Or something like that.
It can't be, because it's happening in 2007.
True, it's modern day. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'd originally thought that too. That would have made sense to me, Bill.
Yeah.
Well, we're talking about cyber wars in the sense of being in our solar system, though. We don't know where these people come from originally. They could have had Cybermen over there, and they got rid of them, barely.
They actually said they came from Stowe in the Castrovalvan, which was a throw-out reference to Castrovalva.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that works.
Castrovalva is a fake place.
Castrel is a fake place.
The planet existed.
But I think, it's not an actual planet that existed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the planet existed, the culture did not. And I do love the fact that Tennant's eyebrows pretty much shot through the roof when that was mentioned.
It's like, I've been there. Crazy time.
But yeah,
and it would be something that the Temp would remember, because Temp was a big
cyborg thing did not make any real sense to me without any... I don't know if there had been more written as a dialogue on why and was cut for time.
It was cut to add more Happy Christmases.
Maybe people in store are just jerks.
Maybe. We don't know.
Okay, so Matt...
I kind of think they are after this episode.
So Matt, what didn't you like about this episode? Not specific in general.
Some of the character... I will say that about 50% of the character writing was pretty good, but there's another 50% that just drives me crazy sometimes. In particular, some of our side characters, and it kind of relates a little bit to Tim's cyborg thing, but it also kind of relates to the treatment of some of the other characters too. It does drive you bonkers, because you kind of feels forced. There's a lot of really forced bad writing.
Can you specify a little bit here? Give an example.
Well, there's again, as mentioned, there's some weird prejudice that goes unexplained about the cyborgs, and it goes nowhere. The blue collar couple that we have mentioned, the fat couple, they're fat. Let's laugh at them. The hell.
It wasn't so much.
I think it was so much just that they were fat. I mean, the guy was
because they stood out a little bit,
anyway,
and you got Red Midget in the room too. Why pick on the humans if you're going to be acting like that?
Because they were lower class. They won their fare rather than buying it.
Yeah,
it was that noise.
The whole concept was, what if the Griffins from Family Guy had been gotten won tickets to the Titanic?
I wouldn't necessarily say the Griffins. I would mention somebody else, because the Griffins are a little crazy compared to this couple. Which, the Simpsons might be a little more grounded, a little bit.
But it's that kind of blue collar, low class. What if the Connors from Roseanne?
Yeah.
Had won a trip on a first class luxury cruise.
Everyone went to second class. I've seen this episode.
But that was the concept of those people, were that they were the Joe Everyman.
It still felt really forced, though.
I'm going to piggyback off of that one a bit because the main thing that bothered me was that the tourists all felt like caricatures rather than actual people. Like the way you described that couple as essentially being, your sitcom couple rather than being actual people. That's how, they acted like they're there for a sitcom rather than actually being semi-believable people. The asshole guy who was your television asshole guy who doesn't really have any other traits than being an asshole.
And probably should have been left for dead.
And Bonicafalata was the next tourist, and he wasn't as bad, but even he felt a bit caricatured and.
Well, when they bring up the whole cyborg thing in particular, he starts to feel
it's very hard
caricatured.
to make a detailed character when you have to talk in third-person broken speech.
Still.
Why did he have to talk in third-person broken speech?
Because I suspect it was supposed to be some kind of aliens trying to speak the common language.
The localese, yeah.
Yeah.
Which I've seen done better.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And in that case, honestly, I mean, well, this is just me as a writer. I would probably have included a scene where they indicate that in his own language he's fluent and intelligent and has a conversation with the doctor, and then we go back to talking to everyone else. He sounds that way, but
yeah,
maybe that's just me.
That would have been nice to experiment that a little bit, because they had time for it, believe me. They had time for everything else.
Okay, so Aaron, what didn't you like about the episode?
Where to begin?
Generalizations, not specifics. Remember, we will do the scene that made you groan as a later bit.
I just didn't like how it all felt kind of scattered. Like there didn't seem to be really a focus. It didn't really. The whole thing is that it doesn't really have to be the Titanic in space.
If they would have actually focused on
kind of goofy and stupid and.
Yeah, if they would have actually focused on the Titanic in space, it would have been more interesting.
Well, they kind of focused on it being like there were a few jokes like the small collision.
Well, the thing is, if you're gonna do that, you should have done it whole hog.
Yeah.
Don't have it be meteorites. Have it be comets. Because then you would have actually been hit by a space iceberg.
Yeah. And of course, having it be on purpose rather than an accident kind of hurts that too, because the Titanic, as far as I'm aware, I'm not exactly big on reading on conspiracy theories, but to my understanding, it
was an accident as far as we are aware, yes.
No,
it just felt like there was a lot of superfluous, there seemed to be a lot of parts that didn't really need to be in there. It could have been heavily simplified. It could have, be written to make a little bit more sense, and it kind of, to me, it kind of overall came off being like a bad joke.
Like some of our background characters.
Yeah, exactly. But that's how I feel.
Alright.
Fair.
Phil?
I didn't mind when I was piggybacking off of Matt's point.
Yep.
Alright, so what I didn't like about this episode is that Russell T Davies apparently was not happy enough with the ending at Series 3, so he had to make this ending even more of a down. We've mentioned previously that we've said that Russell T Davies can't have the Doctor have a good season ender. If you think about the end of Series 2 where he's saying goodbye to Rose,
the end of
and
Series
is all
1 where he
depressed on
dies.
everything, and then the end of Series 4 where he has to remove Donna's memories and ends up all depressed. The ending of Series 3 is actually a higher note than that. He leaves with Martha leaves, but they leave on good terms. And yes,
same with him and Jack.
Yeah, things are actually, he's actually in a half good place. So then you take it with this, where he finds somebody who he's thinking of making a pink companion and then having to watch her die.
Yep.
Seriously, Russell, what is your issue with letting him actually have going into the next series in a good place?
What is with you and your hatred of happiness?
You know, when you start thinking of moments like this, I said this way back in our early podcasts when we did our review of the Snowmen that I only could take Matt Smith's overreaction to the loss of Amy and Rory if I took his previous regenerations into context.
Mm-hmm.
And this is only bringing that more to the light on, because Russell T never let him have a good, proper ending to about anything. So, I can only take that as a valid context.
The Series 5 ender was probably his happiest time in quite a while.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's saying something. And then losing Amy and Rory like that. So I can almost see that if you take Tennant's, basically the Russell T Davies era, as being basically the load of crap that's already piled onto Matt Smith's persona, you can almost see why he would snap that way.
Yeah.
Almost.
And the fact that he's also the doctor that always tries to forget, that means he's also trying to forget all the harm that came to him while he was the 10th Doctor, too, I would assume. So losing Amy and Rory like that just compiled everything all at once, and you just kind of wandered off.
Like I said, though, it almost makes up for it. I still think it was a little over the top. Anyway.
It was a little ham-fisted, yes.
If you're going to make that kind of thing, you either have to do it where the doctor's, it's Christmas, so the doctor saves everybody. He should have a Christmas where he actually saves everybody. Matt Smith, I think, eventually had one, but
had a couple.
Yeah. Or you have to go whole hog and everybody dies.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been the other way to do it, is that, where he's losing everybody, he loses everybody on that trip and winds up with basically the only two people on the ship crashing into the Earth is himself and the antagonist, a.k.a. Max.
I think the only Christmas where nobody dies is Dr. Widow Wardrobe.
Yeah, that was the one I was thinking of.
Well, there's that, and I could also name also the one that the doctor messes with one guy's time history.
And the girl dies at the end?
Well, she didn't die, at least not on screen, though. She still had a while, but anyway.
So what specific point did you really like about this episode? Tim?
The scene that I really liked was the battle on the catwalk with the flying robotic angels and the using the bats. That was very dramatic and exciting, and
and using the halos as weapons.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. I'm not as fond of that because I'm not as fond of those robots. I really didn't like their
RTD
the way they
likes robots at Christmas.
I'm perfectly fine with these robots. They actually look kind of like. Go ahead.
I didn't like the way they did the jaw being the real jaw with the half mask. It bothered me for some reason. I would have preferred a full-on face mask.
You guys do realize that they are very similar looking to the Axons, right?
Yeah, they are.
The Axons?
Mm-hmm.
Trying to remember.
The Axon's third Doctor,
I was actually going to mention that I can't remember the name of it right now off the top of my head, but I remember there was an episode with robots that kind of looked somewhat similar to this.
They looked similar to the robots from Robots of Death, but those had a full face mask. Mm-hmm. That was a Tom Baker episode?
Yeah. Okay, yeah, so it might be the same one I'm thinking of then. Are you saying that you think that the lower jaw is their actual face?
It looked to me like the mask was a half mask, and when they were talking, you could actually see a jaw moving.
Well, yeah, you could actually see a jaw moving, but there was a whole face mask with moving mouth. Because I'm looking at images right now, and it's all plastic.
I just didn't like the way it looked.
It looked fine to me, but to each their own. It still reminds me of that Tom Baker episode, which is not a bad thing. It just means that they updated the look of them, particularly for a holiday trip.
All right, so Matt, what specific scene did you like?
You're all going to die. Kaboom!
Oh, I was going to say, are you sure it's not the forklift scene?
As a serious moment, I like You're All About to Die. As a silly camp moment, the forklift scene is pretty good too.
The forklift is a great, genre-savvy internet geek moment.
Yeah.
Rather than being the
moment that you would remember for
moment.
Doctor Who, yeah. Like an actual serious Doctor Who moment.
Okay. Aaron.
The one where Little Red Dude explodes his chest. It's like cyborg.
Okay. Not really much that we can say there that we haven't already talked about with
combat scenes. Yeah, it was. I think it was kind of the tail end of that a little bit.
Bill.
I'm surprised nobody mentioned my favorite moment, but it's kind of a minor moment, but it is entertaining. Just like how I mentioned that what I liked the most about the episode was the comic relief historian. I actually would say Wilf's scene is my favorite in this special. It
God damn it, Bill!
It just stands out as a fun moment that acknowledges Doctor Who continuity. Granted, Wilf does become a bigger character later on as a result, but even before that, I seem to remember this scene standing out and setting some of the tone for this episode. And
you realize Randy has fingers crossed the entire time.
Yes, I'm sitting here like no one said that. No one said that. No one said it. God damn it, Bill!
I'm sure he's jamming the kick Bill in the dick button right now.
I'm thinking about it.
Shock Bill in the chamois, not the chamois. All the MST3K references I can make this episode.
I'm hacking an orbital kill sat and pointing it at Danbury right now, Bill. Because that is my favorite scene of the entire bit. And it's not just Wilf. It's everything that happens in that scene, to Astrid's pure delight at being on an alien world, which is ours. So it's, basically seeing...
Yeah.
It's seeing the companion
to all the people that think you need a modern day Earth companion to experience, traveling with the Doctor and the wonder at the universe, bullshit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because here you see an alien seeing wonder at seeing Earth, whereas, the most of us are just
modern day Earth on top of it.
Yeah.
Yes. And I actually loved that, and that was why I was going to name that as my favorite scene. And now I got to think of something else. God damn it, Bill.
Next best.
Oh, I think I'd have to go for the Doctor's epic speech moment then.
Oof.
Only that bit of that scene though. And yes, it's been repeated because Bill did it, and that's only really I liked the 30 seconds of him being that intense.
And Stephen Moffat parodied it last year.
Yep. It's been parodied a few times by a few.
I have to wonder if other doctors have read that speech. I've never YouTubed that one.
Mm. The I'm the Doctor. I'm 903 years old. Yeah. It's at least he didn't get to add and it's been Moffat added on to it too. I'm the oncoming storm.
Yes. Well, yeah, because that's later in his life cycle, and his ego does grow exponentially per season.
Yeah, it is a bit later, but the oncoming store thing, of course, had already been was already there as of season 2, or actually the end of season 1. So I'm surprised that didn't get added onto it. And I keep swearing those titles keep adding. Didn't in Day of the Doctor he also refer to himself as the Bringer of Darkness?
He might have.
Anyway, so what scene made you groan? What scene broke your suspension of disbelief? What made you go, oh, come on? Tim.
The scenes where the meteors are coming, and the tourists are just going, "Ooh, look at that! It's getting closer. Right, it's coming right at us, and oh, look, it's so pretty, and ah."
You'd think there had been a bit more panic of, "Oh my God, they're coming right at us." But in their defense, they did assume that the shields were up, even though the Doctor is screaming the shields aren't up. But you'd think there would have been some more, disturbance going on there.
Right. Also, a minor thing. Whenever there's a shot of someone falling down the pit or being sucked into space, the blue screen effect, the proportion seems to be way off.
Yeah. Also, it's super slow motion.
Mm-hmm.
Oh! Yeah. I would have loved if they'd thrown in a Wilhelm yell just because.
Well, I don't know. Like there's already a railless bridge over a pit. You add in Wilhelms, they might they might get accused of ripping off Star Wars.
And George Lucas still had the rights at that point. Yep. Okay, Matt, what made your eyes roll? Pick one.
Actually, as nice as some of that speech was, I have to say that the suddenly overdramatic music didn't feel right, and it kind of really, really backfired that mood.
So you think Murray Gold actually failed on this one?
On that particular end of the sequence, yeah, it just felt suddenly over the top, corny and cheesy, and took me right out of it. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the music in particular, or just the way they ended the speech, or something just misfired completely at the end of that, and it ruined it. It ruined what could have been a good speech.
All right, Aaron.
Oh gosh.
Pick one.
Yes, the one where the angels are lifting him up.
No, damn it!
Hi, I'm the Doctor, and I'm Jesus.
Jeez! This is the episode following Jesus Doctor with Prophet Martha. So he's taking the Jesus to another level here.
It is so heavy-handed by Russell T in this. I mean, the Doctor. The fact that Russell T Davies has been writing the Doctor as Jesus is fairly obvious when you look back over the previous 3 seasons. Chris had a bit of it. Tennant had a bit more of it. But here, Russell goes right at that analogy with a hammer.
Oh, God, that scene. And they're just carrying him up through the lazy backgrounds. And, oh, God.
Yeah. And I have kind of a more personal thing, because while I don't exactly hate David Tennant or Russell T Davies, it comes off as kind of arrogant. It came off to me as if they were saying, "Oh, well, this is David Tennant. He's penultimate."
Well, the 10th Doctor is incredibly arrogant.
Yeah, and that's kind of what turns me off.
He gets that from 1, 4, and 6.
Yeah, 1 was also exceedingly arrogant.
Yeah, but 4 was at least a little bit fun.
But 6 kind of ruined that.
Enough to be fun. Tennant is just kind of an arrogant human.
Okay, which is more arrogant though, 10 or 6?
6.
6.
I think 6 is arrogant.
I would rather watch David Tennant than Colin Baker, I'm afraid. And I know it's not all Colin Baker's fault.
I like him better in The Big Finish because that's mellowed to a bit, but
What the hell?
What are you doing, Bill?
My phone is on silent and it started playing an ad. Because ads are the devil.
Okay, so Aaron took your scene, Bill. What else you got?
I'm going to go with my runner-up, which is a distant second, but it's a scene where the Doctor is throwing a hissy fit because I can do anything, and he can't figure out a way to bring back a dead person. Because apparently he really needs to be Jesus, and he needs to be able to lay hands on the dead and bring them back.
Come on, Lazarus! Come on!
My paladin can lay on hands.
Yes. However, that scene itself does bring up a point, I think, that Mr. Copper tells him. that if he could decide who lives and dies, he'd be a monster.
I think
that's kind of
the Doctor used that line again in a different episode later than this.
I don't know, but it's a good foreshadowing to Waters of Mars
Yes.
and the Time Lord Victorious.
That too, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I did like that about that scene, but yeah, it's him railing. It's and that goes along with the fact that Russell T can't let the Doctor have a good ending.
Yeah.
Oh, you ended good with your companion. Well, here's a new one. Here's a good one. Oh, she's dead. Deal with that, bastard.
Breaking your hearts, and I'm kicking you in the nuts. Suck it.
It's one of the reasons I don't want Russell T back, although I would prefer him, I think, at times over Moffat, depending.
Oh, yeah. In the regular season, at least, I would prefer Russell.
Okay,
until
so
the
scene that made me roll my eyes and groan. I also had the same one as Aaron and Bill, but I too had a runner-up, and it's a fairly close runner-up for me, and that's Max fucking Capricorn.
The big giant head?
Yes. And the reason for this is the sheer ludicrousness of the fact that he's in this he's basically a head in a tank. If you look at the robo-technology that they had to go to make the host, to make Benacafalata, to make all this, he could have made himself a more humanoid preservation system.
That's actually, yeah.
Instead, he's a head in a enormously cheesy robot tank. I mean, seriously, if you're going that far, put his head in a glass jar like Futurama.
Yes.
And he is just so over the top.
I would have put him on a spider.
Eating Cuban children? Yeah.
Put a robot spider.
It's just that the scene of that, pretty much from the point Max comes out and reveals himself, I'm just sitting there going, oh, please. Just kill him and get it over with. Oh. So, we have a couple of minutes here before we go into final thoughts. Was there anything else that you either have to say good, bad, or ugly? Anybody?
While the action scenes were nice, I felt it was kind of unnecessary to keep killing off characters.
Well, yeah, that's kind of like I said, that if you're either going to do it, you either have him save everybody as a Christmas present, or everybody dies. And that way, you're driving the point that, this is a situation where he can't save everybody, where he made the promise that I'm going to save you all, and he absolutely fails. But don't half-ass it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in this case, two people survived, I think?
Mr. Copper survived, and the prick survived.
Oh, so three.
Yeah.
Oh, no,
and
Alonzo also survived.
Alonzo, yeah.
Yep.
So 3 people then, okay.
That's pretty much it.
So you go Alonzo, here's Alonzo.
Although I do kind of like the fact that the one you would have chose to survive, or the one who survived isn't one of the people you would have chose, and like we discussed, that is a good foreshadowing of other things. Although that actually is kind of repeated in Flatline.
Yeah. That's basically Moffat writing that same story, only with Clara instead of the Doctor. Yeah, they're
both survives, and the Queen.
They both kind of go about it heavy-handed too. Well, Wilf isn't on the ship; he doesn't count.
Yeah, but they did manage to save London from the Titanic and the Earth.
Mm-hmm. Which, by the way,
this is the alternate universe.
That was a special effect fail by the mill, by the way.
Oh, the ship.
Yeah. That ship through the atmosphere was not the best special effects I've seen from the show.
Mm-hmm. No, it wasn't. But I have to say it wasn't the best, but it was by far still superior to a lot of the problems we've been having since we got rid of the mill.
This episode is not the best work visually of this era of the show.
No. And you would think with
I'm kind of wondering if they might have been in a rush when they put it together.
I wouldn't have thought so.
Wouldn't think so,
Aaron,
but
the Christmas specials are usually filmed later.
And they knew they were doing a Christmas special for 2007 as early as 2006. I'm wondering, though, if this is the first time they had to juggle the triple production schedule.
that is a possibility.
That is true, because, Torchwood would have been airing it, Sarah Jane.
Yeah, so that might have factored into it, the fact that they had to sandwich this in while filming Torchwood and or Sarah Jane Adventures.
Mm-hmm. And they do other stuff too. They don't just do Doctor Who and Torchwood. They do other advertising.
In terms of that specific, that one producer and such, he would probably be focused on.
I was actually meaning overall, Aaron, not just the mill. I meant the entire.
Oh, she meant the mill. Okay.
This is the first time that the whole Doctor Who production team had to have been running year round.
Right.
And
must have been driving them bonkers
in while doing something else.
Yeah, I'm wondering if they gave it to the mill in less time than they normally would have for a regular season episode.
Kind of thing, yeah. I'm wondering if they gave it to them in late October, November, and say, "Here, you've got a month."
To which the mill turns around and goes, "What?"
Yeah. You realize we have this, and this, not to mention Torchwood to do, and they're like, "Yeah, well, we need to get it done."
Sorry about that, but yeah, we need to get going.
And that might be why the Doctor Who production team has relied on the mill less and less in later years. They still actually do use the mill. I had been erroneous in that. Aaron pointed that out to me.
Oh.
But starting with Series 5, they started using the mill less and had their own in-house team do more of the work than what had been done before.
Well, yeah, I guess you kind of have to start working on that when the mill can't keep up.
Yeah, the last one that the mill is credited for on Internet Movie Database is The Crimson Horror.
Which was not really a special effects heavy episode.
No. Wasn't that good of an episode either.
I think Mr. Sweet was probably CGI.
Anyway.
Maybe bits of him.
It is time for final thoughts. We're actually slightly late, but we should still be okay.
Yeah.
So, final thoughts for each of you, starting with Tim.
Final thoughts. I would say that this was one of the better bad episodes, I think, in my opinion. If that makes any sense.
Kind of.
Since, I didn't really think it was all that great, but for what it did well.
All right. Anything else, Tim?
It did badness well, is that? Not...
Yeah, that's what I mean.
It did badness well.
Anything else, Tim?
And I thought it would have been cool if he had actually gone on the real Titanic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're all agreed on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What if, even if they had to reuse sets from the movie, which had only been a couple years old at that point, we're still probably kicking around some set, and just cast new actors. They could have done it, it's not the first time they would have done that, or will do that, because Fires of Pompeii.
Would that be crossing his own time stream, considering that the Ninth Doctor is known to have convinced a family not to have gone on the Titanic?
No, because he'd be on the actual Titanic and not actually on shore convincing someone not to go.
Yeah.
I remember seeing the short time crash and getting all excited for the next episode, and then finding out, oh, that's not the Titanic you're thinking of. So that was kind of a disappointment.
Yeah, it was. And the whole dealing with it wasn't that good either, with the whole, it crashes through the TARDIS and then it magically gets undone. That I should have also listed as one of my worst scenes. Anyway.
True.
Anything else, Tim?
No, I'm done. That's
All right,
it.
Matt, your final thoughts.
Oh. A lot of good, a lot of bad. When it does good, it does really good in this episode. When it does it bad, it does it terribly bad.
And also, going to say you take the good, you take the bad, and there you have the facts of life for a second.
I was just thinking that too.
But also, I will say that for also some of the bad, there's actually bad, and then there's like middle of the road, haha, that gave me a giggle, even though that shouldn't be here bad. At least it was entertaining bad in some parts.
Okay.
So it wasn't all just flat out terrible bad, but there were some bad segments that were at least entertaining, if nothing else.
There was some terror bad.
Mm-hmm. But again, when they had good parts, they had really good parts, and I wish it would have been more of a rule instead of the half marker.
So, if you were forced to sit in a chair and watch either this or Journey to the Center of the TARDIS,
I'd watch this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By a long shot, I'd watch this.
Yeah, I just had to bring up
Pole vault.
Journey in here somewhere.
Anyway, that's
all right, Aaron.
My thoughts.
Yeah, it's a very mixed bag. But it's not as bad as it could have been, though.
Oh yeah, we've seen worse failures than this.
Yeah, that's my thoughts.
That's it?
That's it.
That's pretty much it, because Matt has pretty much said everything that I was going to say anyway.
Okay, Bill.
This is what happens when you let Russell T Davies write an episode that has nothing to do with the season plot. It's exactly what I'd expect. The cheesiness, the just in general over the topness. It's Russell T Davies writing an episode without it having to go somewhere. And whether that's good or bad is up to you. I consider that to be a kind of middle of the line thing.
Okay. Well, I have to agree with most of the panel on this, that it is it is a dose of good and bad. There is some stuff in here that makes me smile whenever I see it. And there is some stuff that just makes me want to go get a sandwich. It's obvious that, the Russell T, I think, at this point had started to feel, was starting to feel the writing fatigue.
Yeah, because I think he wrote a lot more for Torchwood Season 1 than he would for future seasons.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it was also the fact that he just did not this out. It was he had to force himself, and it feels like he did. It feels like he, or
at least like he didn't have any great ideas for it. Like
right, he didn't have any creativity going, and it was just finally Julie pestering him until he got it. Finally, sat down and just went, "Okay, here you go, we'll run with this." Or he had a glimmer of some ideas and nowhere to go with them.
Mm-hmm.
Either way, it shows as probably the worst of the Russell T Davies Christmas episodes, in my opinion, anyway. So now we go to ratings. Tim,
I would say this is just below average, so I'm gonna give this 2.5 stars.
That's your lowest holiday rating.
You realize that this is your first Christmas special that you have not given a 5 to. All right.
Well.
All right, Matt.
3. Middle of the road.
3 average? Okay. Aaron.
2.5.
Bill.
I am also going to give this a 3.
Wow. 2 3s, 2 2.5s. I am.
Stop.
So Randy says he's just going for 3. So that would be slightly above.
Yeah,
75.
I'm gonna just give it a 3 average because there is. I think if it'd be a 2.5 if it wasn't for Bernard Crimmins.
Yeah. And a few other little things.
Yeah, that's pretty much it's Bernard Crimmins.
So that gives us a 2.8 overall average, and let's see what that's on par with compared to what we've reviewed in the past. That puts it just below Crimson Horror and just above Hyde and the TV movie.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like this better than I like the Crimson Horror.
Yeah, the Crimson Horror. Why was it so high?
It was
largely...
It was 2 3s and a 2.5. So if there was more people voting, it probably would have had the same score.
It might,
or
yeah, it
lower
might have
score.
gone lower maybe too.
Yeah, that was back when it was just the main 3, as it were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We need to get Erin to watch that and have her view on it. Then maybe it'll
Give
go lower.
a retroactive.
Have an episode where Erin just rates everything we did without her.
Well, I've been thinking about letting her give some retroactive grades to some of the other stuff, like Day of the Doctor, which was before she joined us.
You just want to increase Day of the Doctor's rating.
Yes, I do, actually.
Day of the Doctor, I would give 5.
Ding 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 ding. Anywho, it is definitely time to bring this to a close then.
Yep. And as always, if you want to listen to more of an Unearthly podcast, you can find our playlists at youtube.com/maninblackreviews or subscribe to our new uploads at youtube.com/madmadinc. Madmadinc 1, right?
Madmad 1, yes.
Yes. You can listen to our weekly streams at twitch.tv/madmat2185 or follow us on Mixcloud at an Unearthly Podcast. By the way, I think we shared the wrong link last week. I noticed that our stream was showing mixcloud.com/unearthly podcast, which was my fault. It should actually be _unearthly_podcast. That's the way Mixcloud
actually, as we were going into that, I actually did look us up and I found us. So.
Oh, okay. You can also follow us on social media at facebook.com/unearthlypodcast or twitter.com/unearthlypod. If you want to help us out a little bit, swing on over to patreon.com/unearthlypodcast and throw your pocket change at us for your choice of rewards. And of course, don't forget to join us next week for The Next Doctor.
Yes, it'll be the next Doctor, and then it'll be the what was it, Final Christmas?
Last Christmas.
Last Christmas. So that is our next 2 episodes.
The final countdown.
Doo-doo-doo.
Now I've got the freaking Don't Mind the Buzz Cuts Doctor Who episode in my head. They had the whole brass band do that. Anyway, we'll see you next week.